Hello and welcome to A Trip to the Movies, where each week a special guest takes us on their perfect trip to the cinema. This week we are joined by a brilliant actress who has appeared in some of the most iconic shows and titles of the last few years, from Walking Dead to Westworld, from DC's Black Lightning to Marvel's Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania. She's also starred as Elia Kane as part of the Star Wars universe in Season 3 of The Mandalorian, and has an upcoming movie, Love Lies Beneath, due out later this year alongside Kristen Stewart. Here to tell us about all that and take us on her perfect night out at the movies, it's the brilliant Katy O'Brien. Katy, hello.
Hey, how are you? It is Love Lies Bleeding with Kristen Stewart.
Love Lies Bleeding. What did I say? I
Bleeding.
thought I'd written it down right. What did I call it? But did I embarrass myself?
You said Love Lies Beneath, which I feel like is
The
it's like a
Harrison
hybrid
Ford,
of that. Yeah.
yeah. The Harrison
Yeah.
Ford, Michelle Pfeiffer weird movie. Yeah, okay. Love Lies Bleeding. Hey, how are you though? Thank you for being on the show.
I am great, happy to be here. I'm currently um I don't want to say trapped in Oklahoma, but I am filming a movie, so uh yeah, but life is good.
I mean, in terms of cool shows and movies to be part of, I mean, that's probably one of the most incredible list of credits that I've ever read as an introduction. I mean, the universes of Marvel, DC, and Star Wars. I mean, things seem to be going well. How's life?
It's great. It feels so weird because yeah, I feel like I grew up, I loved superheroes, loved comic books, loved mythology, and to be in that world is really interesting. And now I'm almost wondering, am I stuck here? Will anybody ever trust me to break out of that and go somewhere else? But I mean, I certainly can't complain. It's been great. The fan base has been great. The projects are always fun. It's always an adventure.
I mean, it's amazing, and I think, and allow me to correct my mistake earlier. Love Lies Bleeding. I mean, that's certainly a very different prospect, but we'll talk about that in a moment. How's life changed after season 3 of The Mandalorian? Obviously, it is a huge and fantastic show. Are you being recognized a lot more when you leave the house?
I am. It's really weird. I didn't expect it. I don't know why. I guess just because uh, I just I'm just me and whatever. And I also I think struggle to like recognize people. I'm like, is that person? And then I feel too embarrassed to go ask. But yeah, it's been really strange. Like even just walking around Oklahoma, I've been stopped several times, um, and I don't expect that from Ant-Man because I look so different, and I don't expect
Mm.
it from Love Lies Bleeding because I look so different. So I think it's just because it's how I walk around in the street every day.
You're fine adjusting to what? I guess it's a new level of fame, and it's cool. You're not like, man, I'm literally just taking the dog for a walk.
Yeah, no, it's super chill so far. There was one instance where I was out in Maryland of all places, and we're staying at a hotel for a wedding, and there were a lot of other people there for various events, whatever. And uh, we were out late. Everyone was a little intoxicated, and that's where it started to get a little weird because the personal space bubbles were torn down, and I was just trying to get to my
Yeah.
room, and suddenly there's all these people that are just not letting you do it. So that was the first time that's ever happened, and it was very strange. It was good, I guess, breaking into it. I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess you need one experience like that. So it doesn't always, you're not like, everything's fine. Because sometimes I guess it can be quite scary. I mean, crowds like en masse, and when everyone in that crowd is focused on you, can just be quite a daunting emotional experience, regardless of why it's happening.
Yeah, I'm such an introvert too, so I'm just like, it's a weird thing because I'm from the Midwest, so we love to talk about anything and everything, and I'll talk to a total stranger for hours. But then it is also this thing of like I'm great one on one, maybe two on one, and then it's like I have to go somewhere.
um, I mean, it's a great show to be recognised for. It's
Yeah.
such an incredible journey. I'm just going to try, correct me if I get any of this wrong, but this is as I see your journey on The Mandalorian. So you initially didn't know what you were auditioning for. You became a character called Imperial Comms Officer. You think they've killed you off. Then you return as a liar Cade in season 3. And then you almost have what is a standalone episode. That's an incredible journey. How's it been for you?
It just doesn't feel real. It's like almost like is someone pranking me or something? But because yeah, I really did. I genuinely thought I was dead. I even remember going into the audition room and say, they asked me to read it twice, and I was like, well, it's kind of a small part, and they're like, just do it again. There are no small parts, and they like really honed into that, and I was like, all right, fine. So I do, read the two lines that I had a second time, and then it is on top of that, it's so funny because they're so secretive. So you'd get the lines the night before. They didn't tell me what I was going to be or what I'm going to be doing. So I was shocked to find out that I was coming back. Even more so to find out that it was, pretty much a standalone episode. I thought that was absolutely insane. And I was also just kind of baffled that they had that faith in me, having seen so little of my work. But I really love that about, first, Sarah Finn's office, the casting director, they really do see something in people, and they really do encourage their work. Because I think, I got Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. through her, I got Mandalorian through her, and then I got Ant-Man as well. So there's that. But then John and Dave are really great at bringing people who might be kind of fresh to the industry and taking a risk and building them, helping build their resume, build their confidence, build their career. So I feel like I owe a lot to them. And at the same time, I'm just kind of still like, I feel still just kind of lost. Like, am I in season 4? I have no idea.
You weren't a Star Wars fan though before you got the part, were you? I think I remember reading you talking about how your brother was a Star Wars fan, but you not so much.
Yeah, I didn't get it. It's weird. Usually when something went into space, I was out. I'm like, just count me out of this. And once I found out I was coming back, I was like, okay, I guess I should catch up. Like season 2, I was asking Dave Filoni if my little cylinders, my key cylinders, were mini lightsabers, and he's like if someone could literally facepalm as a facial expression, that was it. I had no idea where I was or what was going on. So I was like, okay, I probably should at least figure out the timeline, what's happened before, who the people are, the planets, the major players. And a lot of that has honestly helped in memorizing my dialogue, because otherwise I think I'd be really lost.
So did you do it? Did you do it in one sitting? I mean, like there's 9 films. Was it a marathon, or did you space it out? What order did you do them in as well? Because did you do them in the order of release or chronologically in the Star Wars timeline? There's so many variables to consider.
I know. I did them chronologically, in the timeline.
So episode 1 first.
Yeah, episode 1 first. And then I did, like, once I finally got to 4, 5, and 6, I was like, okay, these are awesome. I get it. Like this, I get it now. Call my brother up. It's okay. You were right. And then I saw the first one with Rey, and then I was like, well, this kind of reminds me of, Return of the Jedi and stuff. I was like, there's a lot of like very overlap to the original ones. And then I didn't see the last 2. I will eventually, but I decided to go to Clone Wars instead.
Okay.
So I'm trying to catch up on Clone Wars. So I think I'm in season 2 or 3 of that. And then I think there's another step chronologically that I have to hit before I get to Mandalorian.
So a big question, the kind of question that haunts the dreams of Star Wars fans. What is your favorite of the movies you've seen? So we're saying no to The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker because you haven't seen them yet. But of the ones you've seen, which is your favorite?
I think I like Return of the Jedi so far. I just think that's it is. I know that one of them's called A New Hope, but it really is kind of like, that's where I kind of start to feel like a little bit of more hope actually happening. And I guess I do love that it winds up not being permanent, because that does kind of feel like very real, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, well, you're speaking to a partisan crowd here because Return of the Jedi is my favorite. I know Empire is
Nice.
sort of widely regarded as the one, but Jedi just feels like Empire feels like filler. It's like there isn't a proper end. Yet Jedi is the proper end to Empire.
I feel like a lot of the, like, yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Well, good. I'm glad we're on the same page about that. Do you want to hear? And I'm again. Correct me if I'm wrong, but we have a weird similarity in that we both uh, were sort of considering careers in medicine before our mothers went. Listen, if you want to do comedy, do comedy. That's my story? Is that your story as well?
Yeah, yeah. I actually was I'd switched my majors so many times in college. But there were two that stuck, and I stayed with. And then I thought, man, I'm studying psychology, but I really want to be able to help someone the full spectrum, just not just in counseling, but if they needed additional support medically, something like that, I could do psychiatry. I even kind of thought about, neuroscience and neurology. And I added a neuroscience route to my degree.
Hmm.
And I was so close, but I would have needed an extra 2 semesters and basically a full year of physics classes. And I just, physics doesn't work with my brain. And maybe the right teacher could have helped me out, but it didn't. So I needed to take a break. And I had already had a degree in law enforcement, not a degree, but my certification. And so I was like, I'll go work in a city for a few years, really kind of hone down on what I want to do. Um, and then if it's something where I'm like, I can't think of anything else other than finishing this degree and going to med school, then that's what I'll do. And I found out a lot of things along the way that kind of helped me make my decision.
It's interesting because I mean you mentioned it there. I mean, obviously you worked as a police officer for some time in Carmel. A lot of the acting schools, I certainly know this about London, but they do like their students to have gone out and gained some experience of the world before they then come back and pursue a career in acting, because it helps you understand the many characters you will have to play. Has it helped you? Do you feel like it was the right time when you left your career in law enforcement and decided to move to LA? Was that
Yeah.
time actually working in inverted commas the real world valuable?
I could not agree more. With whoever those acting teachers are, I think that's so true. And for a lot of reasons, even on the business side. I mean, had I not done law enforcement, I feel like I would have been a really naive, Indiana girl going out into Hollywood, and I wouldn't even consider the fact that people would be lying to me, or would be trying to take advantage of me, things like that. And so I think that having that real world hands-on experience did help. But then also, I mean, we're talking about a job where listening, like your actual life could depend on you listening and hearing somebody, what they're saying, what they're not saying, what their actions are doing. So you have to be really good at paying attention to people and reading people, and then also talking to people and understanding where they're coming from. And I feel like that's where a lot of people get into trouble, is they just treat everyone the same, and to an extent there's value to that. But I think every circumstance requires a different response, and oftentimes that response is people just want to be heard and listened to,
Mm.
and truly understood. And sometimes there's just not enough time to do that. Or sometimes things escalate in a way that's not possible. But uh, I think that if I hadn't had that career first, I would have really struggled to break into some of the barriers that I've had, personally, just in terms of, um, yeah, it not, hiding my emotions, or not seeing a spectrum of emotions. Or I worked with a lot of people who had just been in crisis, and so kind of really seeing what that actually in the real world looks like and feels like. Those are circumstances that I don't think a lot of people encounter. And so when they're acting those out on screen, it does often come off as acting, because it
Mm.
just is like, that's, you've clearly never encountered that, and you're just doing the obvious thing that you think someone would do. And so often people don't do what you would assume they would do in
Mm.
certain situations.
So it brings an authenticity to the performance if you have actually seen it in, once again. I hate saying the real world because it makes acting sound like not the real world, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, obviously you can't see everything. Like, and I certainly would encourage people to go out and, if you're playing an addict, I certainly wouldn't say, "Hey, let's go out and become addicted to something." That's there
Yeah.
is there is a way in which you have to, balance it out for sure. But I think that for me, having that experience was really valuable. And there are certainly other ways that someone can gain experience that is less invasive um, and just as helpful.
Um, a weird sharp right here, but I would love to talk about Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, because you've been, as we talked about, on some very big shows. How different was the experience entering the behemoth that is the MCU and being on that set compared to your previous experience of being on big shows?
It's so funny because just personality wise, it was so laid back that it didn't feel as grandiose and I don't know, as huge as I feel like it really was. And even this set too, Twisters, we have an amazing cast, massive budget, all those things, and I'm still just like, oh, it kind of almost feels like a laid back indie film. We're all hanging out, we're chatting, we're enjoying each other's company, and then you kind of remember that you've got um, 1,000 crew members instead of like 100, or 200, and they're all building these massive, unbelievably realistic, gorgeous sets, and the lighting is like, I mean, in an indie film, you might get like some small LEDs or something, or one bulb or whatever, and on these you have just these colossus lighting systems that they can just move around as they please, and you can do a new setup in like 30 minutes to 45 minutes. So there are a lot of things that I think, like, luxury wise, you definitely get. um, but the cool thing, being on those sets, at least for me, that I got to experience, was, for the most part, the ego was really low. And I think
Mm.
part of that was just like, everyone's like, okay, we're kind of where we want to be. And I don't feel like anybody felt like they had to prove anything. I didn't feel like anyone felt super insecure. And so it allowed for, artistic expression, and it allowed for people to be comfortable and vulnerable, and do what they wanted to do and needed to do to perform.
And then at some point, to use Twisters as an example, this is set in the Twister universe, a new addition to that wonderful. I'm right, I think Jan de Bont film. I mean, did you watch that before you did this? Had you watched it as a kid, or did you watch it as research?
Yeah, I mean, I'm from the Midwest, so that was like a movie that we watched all the time.
Oh
Yeah, we had
God.
we had tornadoes. We I don't want to say we love them. Obviously, they're super destructive, but we're all kind of like a little bit fascinated by them, because it's something that every Friday we have a siren that says, "Hey, we're preparing you for something that could happen at any moment." And then in school, we had tornado drills where we're, getting away from the windows, covering our heads, all that kind of thing. So it's definitely like a reality for us. But that movie kind of made it seem a little more tangible, a little more, in a weird way, survivable. But yeah, that's a huge movie in the Midwest, at least in the U.S. I don't know elsewhere how it played out,
Yeah.
but we loved it.
It was big here as well. We don't have well, if we have a tornado, it's like a tiny little thing in a village, but because we don't get them at all, it still makes the news. It's like a mini tornado gets like, there was a tornado in a shopping precinct, and people still go,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that. That's exciting. That's exciting. Hey, we're going to the cinema soon, but A, because I got the title wrong, and B, because I do want to talk about this. Love Lies Bleeding. There. It sounds exciting. A24 are literally the biggest role of their lives right now. Great company. I mean, Everything Everywhere All at Once, just amazing, and got the Oscars that I'm sure will help them in the future. So this is from A24. Tell me a little bit about it. All I know really is it's set in the world of bodybuilding, which I know is something you were close to previously in your life.
Yeah, yeah. I actually got the breakdown of this movie from a fan. They sent it to me. It was a gay bodybuilding movie. Kristen Stewart is leading. They're looking for a co-lead female bodybuilder, certain age range, whatever. And I was like, why did I not get this from anyone else? So I was like, this is my part, period. It's the first time, even just from the breakdown, where I'm like, no one else can do this part. And so I made a PowerPoint, and I put like my old bodybuilding pictures when I competed on there. I put like my experience, all of that. And I sent it to my team, and I said, if you don't get me an audition, I am going to riot. And it's, an empty threat. Cause like, what am I going to do? Like go to the agency and like, I don't know, hold up a picket sign or something, but they got it. I really wanted the audition. Right. So, next thing I know, I get a little message in the inbox. I got an audition for this. And then, I don't know if it's because like, I wasn't a name, or I hadn't done anything, very dramatic, very serious before, or what, but I had to do like 6 auditions.
Wow.
And it was like audition, callback, chemistry. They had me read with an acting coach. They had me come back for an audition and then another audition. And finally, the last one, I was like, look, if there's something different I have to be doing, you have to let me know, because I otherwise don't know. Do you have anyone else that you're looking at? Like, I'm the only one here. I'm like, it's either me or you got to start all over again, because you've seen what I can do. And they were like, no, I mean, we really want you for the part. We just like, I don't know what it was, but, so then I finally got it, and I got the script, and I'm looking at it, and I was terrified to do it, because it is emotionally, it's emotionally challenging. It's thematically challenging. It is, it is also, it's an A24 movie as well. So it has that indie vibe that, it's so new, so different. And I was immediately in love with it too. So it was just like, okay, I'm terrified of this, but I have to take it. It is essentially a story about a bodybuilder from the Midwest who goes uh, into a small town on her way to pursue her dreams, and winds up meeting this character played by Kristen Stewart. They fall in love, and then certain things happen that cause chaos and calamity. And I think that's all I'm allowed to say right now. But I'm really, really excited for it. I think I just did photo approvals. I think it should come out sometime this year. I don't know.
Yeah, I rolled the dice at the start. I was like, it's due out later this year, because it's been finished for a while, I think. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's so exciting. I mean, a bodybuilder, the Midwest. I mean, it's crazy that like I can see why you fought for the role, because if you hadn't got that role, it would be like, that's insane. I lived that
Yeah.
life.
I would literally have been furious if they found like another actress, especially one that like maybe hadn't body, and was like kind of
Yeah.
tiny and whatever. I would have been so mad.
The accent was kind of off, like it wasn't right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course, of course. And I mean, Kristen Stewart, she strikes me as someone who only does projects these days, really, that she's very, very passionate about. So it must have been exciting to work with her on this.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, even like I'm very happy that she even agreed to work with me, because I think, part of the chemistry reads was like getting her okay.
Mm.
And I think the first thing that I told her was that, because I just kind of saw her sitting alone in the corner, and I was like, you know what, I'm just going to go up and chat with her real quick, and hopefully, not bothering her. And I think the first thing I told her was, well, I had, a short drive in, which is great, but my car smells like cat pee because my cat keeps peeing in it. And she was like, really? I'm like, yeah, it just smells awful. There's nothing I can do. That was like one of our first conversations. And I don't know if that helped or hurt, but but I got the part. So, but yeah,
Yeah.
she was super chill. And yeah, I think, like you said, I think it's just, she has that the opportunity to just do what she wants now,
Mm.
be really selective. And I think she's also starting to write and produce and direct her own projects as well. So she's kind of following the lines of a lot of people who are, I think, kind of over the like the IP dinosaurs, and just kind of want to do more indie art.
Yeah. Yeah. Things that, like, I guess, perhaps hypothetically aren't so much led by spectacle and are led by character. That's maybe that's a one way of saying it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean, though? I think we both know what we mean. I think we both know what we mean. You're not being chased by a T-Rex in high heels. Exactly.
Right, yeah.
So that's great. Oh, I look forward to that. I look forward to seeing it. Hey, listen, Katy, I'm very excited about this. We ended talking about a movie, and now we're about to enter another dimension, a dimension of pure film where our virtual cinema awaits for the perfect night out at the pictures. You are our guide. We are your audience. Let's go on a trip to the movies. So we push open the door to our temple of film and find ourselves in the foyer. Oh, there's an excited buzz, as there always is in a cinema foyer, the hum of anticipation. Katy, it's your perfect cinema trip. Who have you picked, living or dead, to go with you?
I will always and forever pick my wife, and that might not be the most interesting answer ever, but I always felt like I was walking a lonely path in this world forever and ever, and that I would just be alone forever. And then I ran into the weirdest person I've ever met. And now every single experience without her feels a little uh, less interesting or less fantastic. So it's going to be her through and through.
That's amazing. Can I ask what your wife's name is in case I want to mention her again so I don't always call her your wife?
Yeah, Kylie.
Kylie. Oh, that's lovely. So are you simpatico when it comes to movies, or do you like different things? Are you always going to agree on the film, or do you have different genres that are your personal favorite?
We don't always agree, but we often do. She wants to watch more horror films, but is very afraid. I love horror. Absolutely love horror, and I think she has a little bit more tolerance for abstract than I sometimes do.
Okay. So are you winning her over into the horror genre? Are you breaking her in gently with some like less shocking horror before you go in for now? This is The Exorcist or the Blair Witch Project.
I think a little bit, yeah. There's something called the Hollywood Cemetery, and they put on outdoor films, and so we've seen some. The Exorcist was there, Poltergeist was there, so some of the older ones are a little easier to break into. Rosemary's Baby, Omen, and then we kind of took a little jump and watched Black Phone recently, and it
Oh.
scared her to death, but she absolutely loved it. So I think when there's substance to horror, she's happy.
Well, it sounds like you've done it. If you've shown her if you've shown Kylie a modern horror, and she's got that buzz from it, that's
Yeah.
great. It means I think you've broken the seal, and now she's probably going to be a horror junkie because once you get into it, as you know, it's a genre you love.
I yeah, I think it's always and we watched The Haunting on Hill House and had to sleep with the lights on for a week. So I think there's still some room to grow here, but yeah, yeah.
Do you mean the '90s one or the old original? I think there's an old original one. Do you mean the one with I think it's Tay Diggs in it and Jeffrey Rush? That version?
Am I not talking about the show, The Haunting of Hill House, or is it what is it?
Oh, sorry, I'm thinking of House
And
on Haunted
Bly.
Hill. There's so
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Oh, those yeah,
yeah.
those were the like yeah, I tried to watch Amityville Horror, like the original, and I was like, I don't know, this is kind of moving
Hmm.
slow, but I might give it another go. But yeah, some of those, I can skip for her, but no,
You're talking about that series,
yeah,
the Haunting of
yeah,
Hill House. That is Mike Flanagan. That is
yes,
absolutely terrifying. It's so good though.
yeah.
The jump scare. A bit of a spoiler if no one's seen it. The jump scare in the car, in like I think maybe like one of the last episodes. That must have scared Kylie to death because I'm a horror fan, and that scared the shit out of me.
I watched it with my best friend first,
Mm.
and well, one of because yeah, my other best friend will be like, "Hey," um, we're sitting there, and he's just like kind of we're listening to the argument, whatever, and we're like, huh. And then suddenly that happens, and I jumped off the bed. I was like, we had to pause for a second, and then like the bent neck lady reveal, all of that. It was such a beautiful piece. And then his next one, Bly Manor, for
Mm.
me that was more of a love story. But I just loved how he incorporated that in horror too. So I really think that yeah, Mike Flanagan's got a really interesting eye for it.
Yeah, no, brilliant, brilliant. Yeah, fantastic. Well, you are taking Kylie, your wife, with you now. There is
Yes.
a clock on the wall in the foyer. It reads a specific time. What time of day are you going to the cinema?
It is about 12:30, just after brunch on Sunday. We've had one too many Bellinis, can't drive home yet, but are totally happy to watch a movie.
Oh, that sounds perfect. Just that nice little bit of tipsiness where you're like,
Right.
where you're not so drunk, you're struggling to follow the film. That's way too much. But like you're just like you feel even more immersed. Your real senses are sort of slightly subdued, and you're properly immersed in a film.
Yeah, we're gonna enjoy it no matter what it is, right? Yeah.
Hmm. Sunday, an interesting, nice day to go to the cinema. Nice day to go to the cinema. I don't often go on a Sunday. I like that. I like that. Um, You've booked the tickets for the trip. So where are we going to be sitting in the auditorium?
We always try to go about halfway in the middle, and then I like to be a little bit stage right. I don't know why. I think maybe my head tilts a weird way or something, but I always like that just to be slightly angled, you know.
Halfway up, in the middle. This is a standard question that I ask, and I ask it for personal reasons, which I'm happy to disclose. I have to sit on the aisle because movies are quite long now. There seems to be a
Hmm.
fashion for like how close can we get to 3 hours without crossing that 3 hour threshold. So I often find that I don't like to have to ask people to move when I want to go to the bathroom. This is not an issue for you. You're A, happy to like, you don't need the toilet, and B, you don't mind asking people to move if you do. I feel that you had one Bellini too many.
Yeah, I mean, if it is a 3 hour, 2.5 hour movie, something like that, I probably won't drink anything else. Like I might sip some water, but yeah, I'm not trying to go to the bathroom during the movie. But I would say once we get into these longer movies, I would be fully happy for people to bring intermission back because it's starting to get kind of ridiculous.
Couldn't agree more. I honestly, I mean, the argument against it is that when people come back, it's like it's the start of the movie all over again. Like people need 10 minutes to settle down, when they stop
Yeah.
rustling stuff and what is this the right movie? And apparently, the intermission that can happen all over again. But I mean, I take that so I don't have to go. Excuse me, I need to go to the bathroom to 27 people.
It's worked for plays for like thousands of years, so I feel like we could we could
Yeah,
do it, but you know.
that's I've not heard that evidence before. It's worked for place for thousands of years. Brilliant. I mean, literally, how much more evidence, historical evidence, do you need than 1,000 years?
Right.
Right, the last thing we need before we leave the foyer and take our walk towards the auditorium. The air is full of wonderful smells. All manner of snacks and foodstuffs are available. What are you choosing to eat?
So I used to work at a movie theater, and I will say they sometimes leave those hot dogs on way too long. That cheese packet for your nachos has been some high schooler has been scooping your jalapenos for your nachos into this little cubby, and so I now they make the popcorn in front of you. We used to make it up in like in an attic and then put it in trash bags basically and bring it down. And so there's a lot of stuff I don't want to deal with at a movie theater, honestly. Um, since they make the
This is
popcorn in front of you
incredible.
now, I know,
Yeah.
I know.
I mean,
They
we'd
make the
never had the
popcorn.
curtain pulled back like this on the show before.
Yeah,
You're the first person who's ever actually seen behind the curtain for these these
yeah.
these famous cinema snacks.
Yeah, I'm like, yo, the hot dogs have been, they're like kind of melting on the heater. Should we change them? And they're like, I guess maybe it's time, you know? There's no, at least when I was there, and it's been maybe about, a couple, 20 years or so, uh, there weren't a lot of people coming to check on us to make sure I didn't even have to get a food handling certificate or anything. So, so now I'm a little like, I don't know. Uh, so if I forget to sneak something in, like Flamin' Hot Cheetos or something, I will go for popcorn if it's being made in front of me, and then like maybe a water or like a Coke Zero or something because it's like 10,000 calories for the popcorn. Um, but yeah,
This is this is
sorry
this
to.
this is a good order. So we're writing off literally anything that the cinema is selling in that foyer, you were saying no to unless you can see them make the popcorn in front of you. Like, I want to
Right.
see you make this. Got you. Okay. But
Right.
as a, go on.
And I also like, I feel like that's a great snack because I'm really self-conscious, but I don't love loud noises near me. Like if someone's chewing really loud or something. So if like I would love to do like a kettle chip or something, but I can't because all I'll think about is how loud I'm chewing the chip.
Mm.
So and like I'm probably bothering the whole theater. It's crazy.
Yeah, but that's considerate. That's nice. I mean, it does. It strikes me as an odd thing to have got introduced into the cinema world. It is a nacho. Literally the loudest food I think there is.
Yeah.
I think they did a
Yeah.
test.
Yeah. Now
Um,
loudest, messiest.
but I also did appreciate the sneaking in of food. It's a weird thing. I think that it's a grey area with cinemas where it's like, are you allowed to bring your own food or not? No one's really sure. But flaming hot Cheetos sneaked in. That's a great snack.
So great with lime. It's like that's what I
Mm.
gotta do.
Oh yeah. All right. All right. I'm gonna. So you're having some salt. So what are you having on the popcorn? I don't know what the options in America don't seem to be the same as here. You have butter. We have sweet and salted. What are you
Mhm.
taking? What are you having on your popcorn?
Yeah, usually it comes plenty buttered and plenty salted for me. I
Hmm.
don't need anything else added to it. I know we get caramel corn as an option sometimes, and it's so good, but I just can't. It's so bad for you. So if it's like a maybe like if I'm sharing a small one with like a bunch of people, I might go there, but otherwise it's just like I just can't do it to my body anymore. But yeah, I just take it as it is. I don't add anything to it. Sometimes they sell those like little salt shaker packs that have like a ranch flavoring or a queso flavoring or um, there's like barbecue flavoring. It's like these little tiny salt thingies that they give you. But yeah, I'm good.
Just buttery popcorn. Then I love it. This is great. Well, it
Yeah.
sounds like we've got all the snacks we need. Let's leave the foyer and make our way towards the auditorium. So we push open the doors. Now, the corridor that we're walking down, it's very bare. So what I want to do is put up some posters that represent some of your favorite movie memories or most important movie memories. The first poster we're going to put up depicts your fondest movie memory. What's your fondest movie memory?
Oh, the fondest movie memory.
Or memory
Oh
in a
God,
cinema? Or a
yeah,
joyful experience watching film?
this might encapsulate a little of it because I'm thinking like fondest movie memories would be, back when I was really little and we would go to drive-in movie theaters and stuff. I just thought that was so cool and such a fun, different, and very special for us way to enjoy a movie. So then I can kind of see like Grease, a movie poster of Grease, them watching this drive-in your movie at a drive-in theater. Um, or yeah, I think it wasn't like the Blob or something where they were there too. So
Oh,
any of those would be
yeah.
great. Yeah, yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, we don't really have the driving experience here. So now I often get confused because Americana, like I love. Now, do drive-in theaters have the waiting staff who actually come to the window of your car to serve drinks, or is that just some drive-in diners?
It depends on where you
Right.
go. Um,
Okay.
so yeah, it's very different. So we recently did one on the top of a parking garage, and they had the staff that came to you. That was really cool. There, some of the other ones you kind of have to go. There's a little more like a convenience stand kind of area that you have to go to. So it really depends. I think it's great when they come up to you because I'm lazy, but uh, yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
if it's part of it, it's part of it.
I love that. Yeah. I mean, again, I get confused between what is reality and what is film. Story of my life. But I think I've seen them on roller skates where they roller skate between the cars. This may just be in a film and not a real thing. But I've always imagined, never been to one, but I've always imagined going to a drive-in and have someone roller skate up to me and go, "What can I get you?" That would be my dream.
They, yeah, they used to do that, and I'm sure there are some places that still do. And I think if they were to start that back up today, it would be super popular. So there's an
Oh,
idea
great.
for someone.
I might cut that bit then and keep it as a business idea and try and pitch
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
That's a
Do
good.
it.
That's a good. All right. So, what should we put up? A poster. I'm kind of interested in putting up a poster for the Blob. We could do Grease. Which would you like to represent your fondest movie memory? Grease or the Blob?
I do like, I mean, for when we're thinking of that, I do like the Blob because I love going through even a theater house, opera house, whatever, and seeing some of the older movie posters up. There's a really fun blob vibe to that, and even especially ones I've never heard of, probably never will see again, like the Mystery Science Theater 2000 B
Oh,
movies everywhere.
yeah. And so we're talking the Steve McQueen original Blob, not the reversion they did in the, I think, the 80s or 90s, where it's like it's a lot scarier. It's not as funny and weird.
Oh yeah, I haven't seen that one. Yeah.
Okay, so
OG,
we're putting up
anything, yeah.
yeah. Steve McQueen Blob poster is going up. Right, let's continue down the corridor. The second poster depicts your worst memory of cinema, of movies, a bad experience that you had with film.
I mean, I would generally think that it would be because I love horror so much, and that seems to be where a lot of kids like to sneak in and be really annoying. That it would be that, but there's also, and I'm sorry if anyone loves this movie. It was just I watched it a little young, and I was like, I just don't get it. And I watched Holy Mountain with a group of friends, and it was almost kind of like we all felt like we had to watch it, and it was one of the few times where I felt like a movie was happening to me, and I wasn't like I didn't want to be there, and I was just waiting it out. So I think Holy Mountain would be the movie that I don't want to see up there, but is there.
Okay, so you're gonna have to handhold me on this journey. Holy Mountain, I don't
Okay.
know. I certainly haven't seen. What is it? What's it about? And why was it a bad experience? Because it was happening to you.
Well, what is it about is a really interesting question. I think it didn't know what it wanted to be about, and and I think also we watched a little behind the scenes. At some point, a lot of them were just on acid and just doing things. Um, but what I recall was this man walking around the street. I can't remember if it was Italian or Spanish, but either way, they're walking around the street, and someone seemed to think that he resembled Jesus or something. He falls into some pit with a bunch of uh, bread replicas of him, and then they kind of like hurdle him to a certain area, and then hurdle's not the right word, but whatever, corral. And then he starts pooping, and then they turn it into gold. It's just like if you want to see a weird movie, and like I said, a movie that just kind of feels like it's happening to you,
Uh-huh.
as opposed to you being an active participant, go check out Holy Mountain. Let me look up the
Oh my God,
directors so we can really get into it.
Is it weird that I want to see it now? I mean, that's insane. An insane description
No.
of this film.
Yeah, no. It is wild, and it's been quite like at least 20 years since I've seen it. So I'm sure it's possible I could watch it now and be like, this is brilliant and beautiful.
Hmm.
But as like a high schooler, early high school, I was like, I just don't know what's going on, and I'm not afraid but confused. But yeah, so it's a Spanish film, 1973, The Holy Mountain. Alejandro Jador. I know this guy's name too. I feel like he's done a lot of really good movies. Uh,
Oh, is it a
Jadorsky?
western?
Is that how?
Oh,
Mm,
Jodorowsky, the guy
Jadorsky.
who
There you
was,
go.
yeah, who's going to do June. Okay, is it a western? Am I thinking of the right film? Is it or not? Am I making that up? Is it a
This is
western? Is it
not. I would not say. I would say it's like experimental. I wouldn't say it's a
right?
western.
Okay, right. I got it. That's yep. It's on the list. If only based on bread replicas of himself, and he poops things that turn into
It's
gold. I mean, just wow.
it is very very bizarre. And you know what? I'll watch it again, and maybe I'll have a different opinion.
Okay. Okay. Well, that's good. I like that. You're keeping an open mind. It was a long time ago, but for the moment, I'm putting up a poster of the Holy Mountain as your worst movie memory, time specific. Right. Third poster, a penultimate poster, depicts the last performance that brought you to tears.
My God, that's pretty easy. The Whale, Brendan Fraser. After the
Mm.
movie finished, my wife and I we couldn't talk to each other for about 30 minutes. We just were like crying and just like sitting and crying. And we couldn't even really put a pin on what was making us cry either. We just couldn't stop. But I think he did such a beautiful job. And I think that, it's a lot of people really focused, I think, on like the obesity aspect of it, which, I understand there's controversy with that too. But for me, it was just like, kind of knowing people in general um, that have just, they don't really want to live anymore. They've kind of experienced all they feel the need to experience and might have some last little things that they want to check off, but just being kind of like content to die. And that is just like such a very heartbreaking and sad thing to witness. But also, I feel like I know people like that, or I have known people like that. And the human in us wants to save that person, or to tell them that, there's something here for you still, and for them to still look at their life and maybe even have accomplished all the things they wanted, and to still say no is just so sad.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, an incredible performance from Brendan Fraser as well. And I think if you were to take the element of the off-screen story away, it would still stand up in terms of the themes you were talking about and the performance on its own. But perhaps I would suggest that the off-screen story of the narrative of him, having gone through his own issues, his own demons, and to come back and play that role and to achieve as much as he did with that role is kind of special. It kind of adds just a little soupçon of something else to the story.
Yeah, you almost wonder, kind of think, a lot of times things happen to us at the right times in our lives, and it's like, would he have been able to play that 20 years ago around the time of the Mummy? Maybe not. It sometimes is like that life experience that, and maybe he would have turned a role like that down and suddenly related to it. So I agree. I think that, he went through a lot in these last few years, and I haven't, I haven't like Googled anything. I just know that like he says that he's been through some stuff, right?
Hmm.
And that real world experience, you could just see it. I mean, it was whatever it was that he was able to take and put into that character, just added so much humanity and made it so beautiful, and made the experience so real and visceral. And yeah, I mean, obviously he won the Oscar for it, and I think it was well deserved.
Brilliant. We're putting up a poster for The Whale. Now, the final poster we're going to put up before we leave the corridor and enter the auditorium depicts your unpopular movie opinion.
I don't know. I feel like I don't know if this is unpopular enough. I don't get 3D. Um, I I don't I don't know. If I watch a movie with 3D, I'm like, I don't see it much of a difference. I don't know. So for me, it's like I'm just gonna go 2D all the way. Uh, yeah.
It seems it seems to be dying a death. I'd certainly say within within the accountants officers of Hollywood, it probably is an unpopular opinion because I think they hiked up the price for 3D tickets. But are we still seeing that many movies in 3D? Is it still a big thing where you are in the world?
I mean, I know that, and I didn't see it, unfortunately, and I should. But I know that Avatar came out in 3D, and I think that was a big deal and a huge success. But I think it was very specifically made for that.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah.
but I think that a lot of the other movies that come out maybe are kind of like, and then you can also watch it in 3D if you want. And it's like, okay. Like
Yeah.
I even saw Ant-Man in 3D, and I don't feel like I saw much of a difference.
It's Ant-Man Quantumania. Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania. You saw that in 3D?
Yeah, my friends made me go. I hate watching myself. Um, And as a matter of fact, I would almost say that my worst movie experience is having to watch myself on screen. Uh, and my friends literally like flew out to LA and like bought me a ticket and were like, "You're coming to watch this with us." So I sat through it in 3D, and like as my scenes were coming up, I'm shaking and I'm like, oh, like I don't want to be
Oh,
here.
really? Right? You really
Yeah.
didn't want to be there that much?
No, I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. The second I heard my voice, I was like, I'm just gonna look away and wait until it's over. Just didn't want to. Yeah.
Because it seems to be there's a real split in terms of performers, actors wanting to watch their work because they get to see things that they will then go, I'm not going to do that again in my next role. You know, little aspects of the performance that they go, I shouldn't do that. And there are people who just never watch, and I guess trust their judgment on each new project and believe they're learning, you know, as they go on from role to role. So you're very much in the I don't want to watch, even as a research exercise.
But yeah, I mean, part of the issue is I'm like, I would have done everything differently. Like, this is terrible, you know?
Right.
So I feel like I'm overcritical in a way, but I want to always watch it because I want to support the crew. I want to support, the filmmakers and the other actors and everything. And then also be able to be informed and talk about the movie and be like, yeah, okay, this is some of the differences or whatever from filming to post and all of that. But yeah, when it comes to seeing myself, I feel like I'll watch it once and then I'm good. I don't need to watch it again.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I can understand that. I think anyone who's ever heard their own voice, it must, and it's gone, do I sound like that? The first time you hear your own voice, it's like, it must be like that times a million. But
Yeah.
surely your big fight scene looked kind of kick ass in 3D when you're waving the staff around. That must have been at least, you know, quite a moment to experience in 3D.
It's so weird. I don't see a different. I don't know. Like, I don't know if my eyes or my brain is broken or what, but I'm like, okay, I just don't like, there's not much of a difference to me. But I also, whenever I look at that, I look at all the flaws, or I look at, okay, it was supposed to be one shot and then they broke it up into lots of different shots. So I'm kind of like, I don't know. I wanted more of the fight scenes.
I believe they kind of sprang that on you as well. Like you weren't sure until the 11th hour whether you were doing that fight scene on the day, which it sounds quite insane to me. Like that must have been like something you kind of want to know for sure when you walk onto set. We're doing your big fight.
Yeah. It was just not, yeah, it was not an ideal day. It was really funny. Yeah, my call sheet said one thing. I showed up, the AD said another, the base camp AD said another. So it was all like over the place as to whether or not I was doing my actual fight scene that day. And I had just flown back in from LA the night before. So a little dehydrated, a little like, groggy. And yeah, it was making the transition from Mandalorian to Ant-Man again. Um, and yeah, you almost would have wanted, another day to practice it or to like, review it or something before you went right into it. And I walked onto set and went up to the AD for second unit, and I was like, "Are we doing the fight scene today?" And he's like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Okay." Would have loved to know that. So like my double she had sprained her ankle, so she did one for camera, did one rep of it, and then had to go to the hospital. And so then it
Wow.
was just me. And so we do our first take, and I pull my hip muscle, like my groin, on the first take. And then I had to have, like, all the stunt guys were so sweet. They're like coming up to me with their like massage guns. And they're like, okay, we're going to just like massage gun you the whole time. So, like, the whole 12-hour day, I basically had two massage guns on like both sides of my legs. I had, uh, what I then found out was your version of like Bengay or whatever, because everyone's like, you need some DP. And I'm like, some DP, to me meaning something very different. And I was like, like, you're all very beautiful, but I don't need DP. We're good. But it's deep heat, just
Yeah.
like you're like icy hot or whatever. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, let's rub that on there, and like ibuprofen, all of that. So I'm just like, so when I watch the fight, I just kind of think, oh man, if I hadn't pulled my ankle or my hip right away that might have looked really good. But to me, it's just all flaws.
Oh. Well, to not you, I thought it looked very fucking cool. So
Great.
I didn't see any flaws. But then I wasn't there. I can see where you're coming from. But yeah, it looked badass. So we're putting up a poster for 3D. You don't get 3D. What post? Is there a specific film poster you want to put up? I mean, Avatar: The Way of Water, or do you want to put Ant-Man: Quantumania? It seems self-defeating. But I'm
It
happy with
does.
your choice.
What's a movie that is just so 2D that it could never be 3D?
One of the greatest bad conversions where they were doing all the conversions to 3D was the Clash of the Titans remake.
Oh
That
my
is
God. Oh, the remake. Oh, okay. Yeah, great. Let's do that.
yeah. The originals. I mean, that's a piece of history. But the one with Sam
Yeah.
Worthington in, because they did it like for 20p at the last minute because Avatar had done well, and it's bad. It's a bad thing. All right,
Oh
Clash.
wow. Yeah, I didn't see you know what? I saw the new one, but I'm such a fan of the original. Cuz I'm thinking, "Oh, that like little metallic owl would pop in 3D." But yeah,
Oh
I
yeah,
get you. Yeah.
yeah. Oh, now I'm trying to think of its name. I'm going. I that would take me too long. He's got a really cool name like Bubo. Oh, never mind. Right then, we're putting up a poster for the Clash of the Titans remake,
Okay.
and we're through into the last set of doors. Now there is a crowd of people waiting to join you and Kylie in the cinema. Do you want a busy auditorium, or do you want it just the two of you? Do you want it to yourselves? It's completely up to you.
Oh. Yeah, I mean a scattering of people would be great.
All right. Well, we'll let
Yeah.
in a handful, and
Okay.
those members of the queue, they go wild. Everyone else, they understand. You don't want it too busy. They're off. They're off to eat some of those tasty cinema hot dogs. Right then.
Nice.
There's a few things we need to play on the screen before we announce the movie you've picked for us tonight. The first is the trailer for the film you are most looking forward to seeing at the cinema. What are you looking forward to seeing?
Ooh. So, coming most recently, I think would be Oppenheimer.
Oh,
And then yeah, I'm also looking forward to Killers of the Flower Moon.
oh,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, but I'll say Oppenheimer for now. Oppenheimer.
Yeah, we're playing the trailer for Oppenheimer. It looks great, doesn't it? I mean, exciting. I mean, he's never done a biopic before. It's like new territory for Nolan. What's he going to do?
Mhm.
How is he going to play with time? How is he going to make us go? I don't understand the narrative, and yet it's genius. Brilliant. Okay, we'll
Right.
play the trailer for Oppenheimer. Right then, next up, we're going to play the movie moment on the big screen that makes you literally or metaphorically pump your fist in the air.
Yeah, it's gonna be Two Towers, Lord of the Rings.
Okay.
We've got the Ints taking over Isengard straight into Hell's Deep. Like just two my favorite moments of all time.
uh, again, much like we were talking about earlier, you're playing to a partisan crowd. To me, the minute that wall explodes at Helm's Deep, where the guy finally gets through Legolas's arrows and he's carrying the bomb, and it's like, take him down, and he doesn't, and then the wall explodes in slow motion. Best moment in the entire trilogy.
It's great. It's great. Yeah, I still get like I don't know. I get so hyped when the ints are finally like, let's just rage and just picking stuff up, crash and smash, throwing people down, filling the giant massive hole. That's it for me. But I totally get it. It's yeah. That is the second movie to me is just like it's chef's kiss
Mm,
the whole time.
yeah. Yeah, it's and sort of watching what some of the ents are doing in the background, like the ent that gets burnt,
Yes.
catches
Yeah.
fire, he puts his head out in the
Yeah.
river. It's like all these cool moments going on. Okay,
Yeah.
great. We'll play the ents battle into Helm's Deep from the Two Towers. Okay, next up, we're going to play what you consider cinema's most shocking moment.
It's so funny. I feel like it's always when a mask comes off. It when I was young, I did like a monster movie class, monster drawing class, and it was when the Phantom of the Opera was revealed, the 1920s Lon Chaney Phantom of the Opera. I thought that was epic. And then I saw Silence of the Lambs. And when Anthony Hopkins sheds that guy's face after he escapes from prison, to me, I was like, that. I don't think that's been topped yet for me.
I mean, that's great. That's great. So did you say you drew monsters as a kid,
Yeah,
or you were
yeah.
really?
It's a little bit of both, right? So it was I think we focused mostly on classic horror monsters. I think because it was an elementary school class, so it was like kids, and that's what we could probably tolerate at that at that age. So we had Frankenstein, we had Dracula, we had Phantom of the Opera, we had Wolfman, and then yeah, we would draw them, and then we eventually got to create our own monsters. And I found some of my old pictures from back then recently, sent them to Kylie, and she's like, "What is wrong with you?" But they were pretty bad, but pretty good.
That's cool. So I mean, again, this is the softly approach to get your wife to like enjoy the horror genre.
Yeah.
You're showing her a child's drawings, your drawings
Yes.
of monsters. It's
Yeah,
good.
look, even
I
a
like
kid
it.
can do it. It's fine. Yeah.
It's the long game. Yeah, Lon Chaney's makeup in Phantom of the Opera. I mean, I think I'm right in saying he like invented a lot of these techniques because they didn't have, professional sort of prosthetic makeup artists, makeup and visual effects artists who do this now, professionally. So a lot of that was him experimenting and creating, like the actor himself creating all these this look for himself, which is kind of amazing when
Yeah.
you think about it.
Yeah. And things that like some I'm sure were brought over and are used or were used for a long time, but some that only he and his pure dedication to the craft, whatever. Like, yeah, he used fish hooks up into his
Mm.
nose for the Phantom of the Opera. And then I think it was for Hunchback of Notre Dame, he tied his legs in a way that was so strange, and then he was doing a roof jump and he shattered his kneecaps. So they're built different back then.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the skills you've had for a long time is obviously your martial arts. You've been doing that since
Mhm.
you were very young, and you get to use that in films. I imagine you've used
Yeah.
some of that skill in the fight scenes that you've performed.
Yes, yes. Luckily, I haven't had to do anything as drastic as that. But yeah, anytime kind of takes, a stunt coordinator, the fight coordinator, and the director, anytime they're willing to let me do my own fight scenes, and my double as well, I like to do them. And I always put the caveat down that, if it looks terrible, I don't have an ego about it. Don't let me do it. Like for the purposes of the film, I want it to look good. But if me doing it looks good, it's safe, and you're happy with it, then I'd like to do it. And yeah, they usually let me do it. But then I also like to have, at least the wide or something for my double, so they get, they get something for their reel, or they get, used too.
That's nice. That's very a very generous. But also, what made you take up karate in the first place? Was there a reason that like lured you in? I tried taekwondo as a kid, and I didn't like it. I just was like, no,
Yeah.
it's not my scene. What was it that you kind of enjoyed about it? What made you take it up?
Well, I was, I mean, there are a lot of, like, I was bullied when I was in kindergarten, and it was this silly situation where I was just completely bamboozled. Like, this boy that I was hanging out with, I was hanging out with a different boy at one point, and so he said I dumped him. And I didn't know what that meant because I'm like 5, what do I know? So I'm like, yeah, in the dumpster, haha, that's hilarious. I never even heard the term. So he kind of like put his older brothers on me, and his brother's gang. They're like a gang of 5th graders, and they would like harass me at recess every day. And finally, I broke down. I told my dad and and my parents, and eventually they signed me up for karate. And my dad's always been an athlete, so that's kind of how he's bonded with us. Like he worked all the time, and then when he had some time, he would do any kind of sport with us, coach our sport, little league, whatever. So he joined karate with my brother and me as well. And you know, on that note, I have 3 older brothers, and so like I just had to learn to defend myself. It was for survival. So yeah, we started training, and it just became kind of a family activity. And we do tournaments and things like that, and had a lot of fun as a kid. And uh, took a short break where I did other sports, but I think martial arts was always the one that I just kind of like kept being drawn back to. And I got seriously into it in college, through our self-defense Hapkido program, and just continued on since then. And yeah, I love it.
Oh, it's fantastic! It's fantastic. I mean, that's great, and the commitment to it to carry it on, and for it to then become useful in your job now. That's great. That's good. That's good. Okay, so wow, we've got two things left to do before you announce the movie. First of all, is play through the Dolby Atmos speakers the piece of dialogue or line from a movie that's affected you most.
I think, like I was saying, like everything is just kind of about timing, right? Something that meant so much to me years ago might not right now, but I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up Bardo. Inuarto's like more recent movie, and it just kind of hit me at that weird time. I watched it after it came out, and it was after I had done the release for Ant-Man, and I had Mandalorian coming out, and I, just fully finished Love Lies Bleeding, and all these things were happening at once. And I still kind of just like felt like a bit of like a fraud. And at the same time, like all these things happened, but nothing's happening. And it was just this weird part of my career. And then I watched Bardo and see that, even um, someone of his level probably still, at least is kind of like what I was feeling in the movie, kind of has that sense of like, what is this all? What is it? What's going on? What's happening? Where am I? Where do I fit in? Where do I belong? And he had this beautiful quote where the lead character is talking to his deceased father in kind of this surreal moment, and he said, "Take a swig of success, switch it around, and spit it out. Otherwise, it will poison you." And I loved that quote because it's like, enjoy it now. Just enjoy it. Don't think too much about it. Spit it out, leave it alone, move on. Because if you just sit there thinking about, oh, I have to be more and more successful, it's just going to eat away at you. And if you think about, well, I'm not successful enough, that's going to eat away at you. Or if you think, I'm so successful now that no one can touch me, that's going to poison you. So it's just not even, just enjoy it in the moment, leave it, move on. And I just loved that. And it kind of made me feel a little bit more at peace with just like not knowing what my life was.
Oh, that's great. I've never heard that quote before. Take a swig of success, then spit it out because it will poison you. That's fantastic.
It was beautiful.
Right.
It's a great movie if you haven't seen it. I'm obsessed.
What was the movie it was from? I missed that. It was Bardo, did you say?
Yeah, Bardo. God, it's like a long title, but yeah, Bardo.
Okay.
It's really
That's
beautiful.
two new movies for my list I haven't seen. Not seen that, and haven't seen The Holy Mountain. So that's two movies to add to my list. Okay, our penultimate thing we're going to play to echo around the auditorium is the best use of music in a movie.
Yeah, I'm gonna do the Kung Fu Hustle opening soundtrack. Uh, I'm obsessed with that movie. I love so much about that. It was the first movie that I bought the soundtrack halfway through the film. I just kind of like, I watched it at home for the first time, not in theaters, paused the movie, bought the soundtrack. I love like kind of making fun of, but also doing such a beautiful job of adding like the gang, the mafia-esque gang era into Chinese martial arts film with a little bit of jazz to it, which was like a huge kind of like pulling from Western culture. And then when they incorporated music as literal elements of fighting, I think that movie was brilliant. I think it was genius. Probably one of my favorites of all time.
So I grew up watching a lot of Jackie Chan, and so I've always liked my martial arts to come with comedy. Now, obviously, Kung Fu Hustle, Jackie Chan does it for real, all of it for real, which is why it's so fucking amazing. Whereas Kung Fu Hustle, I seem to remember, I haven't seen it for years, a lot of special effects. It's like the comedy comes from, there's a lot of effects work in it. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah, I thought that was kind of intentional, like yes, kind of making fun of it a bit too. But yeah, there's a lot of wire work, very bad wire work, and silliness for sure. But one thing I do love about Jackie Chan and that movie kind of thematically is talking about like the rhythm behind martial arts, and I started working on a little article about it, and I've gotten kind of busy, but martial arts has always kind of had a rhythm, and there's always, even in Muay Thai, you kind of you pace, and that kind of distracts in a way, so that then you can strike out of pace, and it throws people off. And Jackie Chan talks about like pacing in film in fight scenes, and there's a rhythm to it, and if you break that rhythm, it seems off. So yeah, I adore it. I absolutely think it's wonderful.
Fantastic. Right, the opening titles to Kung Fu Hustle, and we are here. We've arrived. It is time for you, Katy, to announce to yourself, Kylie, and the handful of audience that we've allowed into the cinema, the movie out of all others you have picked for us to watch tonight. What are we watching, Katy?
We are watching Alfred Hitchcock's Rear Window, James Stewart, Grace Kelly. And we're going to enjoy watching a lead character who cannot move spy on his neighbors and come up with a conspiracy against them in a really small setting. And it's just, I thought that movie was genius. It relied so much on the chemistry of the two actors, of the writing, of their personality, what they brought to it. And it in such a small setting, with something that we all do every day, which is assume that our neighbors are up to no
good. Do you remember when you first saw it? Are we going back to when you were a kid and you saw this, or was this a recent addition to your movie CV? Like, when did you see this?
We saw it's a few years ago. Carly and I were doing a Hitchcock kick during the pandemic, and yeah, that one stuck out to me for some reason. I love Psycho. I thought that was great. I loved Vertigo, kind of. I don't know if it stands up like socially as well nowadays. And at some point, I was like, I'm thinking he treats his women kind of, or he has like a weird opinion of women. That movie really struck me with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, this one just kind of stuck out as I feel like so many movies now are so they feel like they have to be doing so much to maintain an audience attention, and yet this movie did so little, and I was fascinated the whole time. And I just thought, like, man, it'd be really great if we could come back to like that stage simplicity in some performances, and just really rely on good writing and good acting, and kind of reinvest in artists and performers, and not just feel like everything has to be a grandiose spectacle.
I mean, you mentioned how James Stewart can't move. I remember being very scared when the neighbor enters the apartment towards the end.
Yeah.
I think we can do spoilers for movies that are over 50 years old. I think we're good. But it's just like the idea of being incapacitated and have a threat there, that's frightening.
I mean, that's like, I think that works in so many horror films. I think that's why Nightmare on Elm Street was so successful too. It's just like, you can't, it's a lot more creative of a way than, having a character fall down and drag themselves too. But we always fear being helpless. And I just think that so oftentimes, if we really think about it, we're most vulnerable when we're asleep, when we're injured, when we're, when we're home alone. And that's when these movies become the scariest. And yeah, it's so great. He's just backing into his wall with his little chair.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. Nightmare on Elm Street, that goddamn movie. It's like, okay, so I've watched the scariest movie I'm ever going to see as a kid. Normally, you go to sleep and you're like, oh, I'll go to sleep, wake up in the morning, forget it. It's like, no, no, no. That's when you're going to die. Fantastic. What a
Yeah.
concept. What a premise.
Yeah, that's the movie that really got me into I think movies in general. And for a while I thought I would go into like special effects or practical effects because I was so fascinated with how they did the makeup or with how they did the spandex, like on a budget, spandex on the wall, him just poking his face out, and it looks so real. It looks like this dude's coming out your wall, or the spinning room, and yeah, it's so wonderful, but at the same time, yeah, you are so helpless when you're asleep. It's terrifying. It's terrifying.
Oh, yeah. Well, what a movie. What a movie to screen at the end of our journey. Alfred Hitchcock's Rear Window. And that's it, Katie. The curtains have closed. The guests are milling out, smiling, chatting, and thanking you for taking them on an incredible night out of the movies. But before you go, it's time for this week's mystery question. As always, we ask, what's in the box? So, okay, this is your mystery question. Right. Okay. There has been a groundswell of support for you to. Oh, you probably know where this is going. There's been a groundswell of support for you to join The Last of Us as the character Abby. What are your thoughts, and would you like to tackle that character?
I would love to. I've heard that a lot, but I think they're gonna try to go for someone younger. If I had to guess, my argument to that was I just played someone in their 20s, and I don't look my age, but I do not think that it will be me. But I'd love a chance if they'd let me.
And it must be nice to have people saying, oh my god, we would love to see you in that role. That must be nice that it's happened organically, and it's arrived at your doorstep from fans of this show that they want you to become part of.
Yeah, it's been great. It's been great. I will say, I mean, obviously, there's certain things that I'll never be able to control in terms of the business. There's so many roles where I'm like, oh, I didn't even get to see that. Like, I didn't get to try even. Um, and so that's always it's always like that's what gets me the most. Is like I never even got a chance.
Mm.
But the one thing I just really hope, and I know that they have a very specific vision for that show and everything. I just really hope that whoever they pick is a great actor and also has a lot of muscle, because I don't feel like we get a lot of that representation on screen. Personally, I just feel like so many people shy away from women with muscle or anyone that has like any androgynous qualities for mainstream stuff. And I think that show's been really, really brave in a lot of ways. So I'm hoping that that they go that route. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's like it's going to be a great role for somebody. It's going to make somebody's hopefully someone's career.
Oh well, that's yeah. I agree with everything you just said. But if they did ask you, it's a yes, right? Just so they know in advance.
Yeah, yeah, it'd be great. I'd love it. I would love to be in two shows with Pedro, but actually, like,
Oh
I
yeah.
still haven't gotten to meet him. So yeah, I'd love uh, to be his opposition in two shows.
uh, Brilliant stuff. Oh, Katie, your taxi has arrived now to ferry you back to reality. But before you go, let's recap your perfect night out at the cinema. You are going with your wife, Kylie. You are going at 12:30, specifically on a Sunday, just after brunch, after you've had a couple of Bellinis. You're sitting halfway up in the middle. And if the movie's long, although Rear Window isn't that long, you 100% believe intermission should come back, as evidenced by 1,000 years of theatre. You're going to sneak in past the security because it's your virtual cinema. You can sneak in what you want. Some flaming hot Cheetos. You're having some buttery popcorn and either a Coke Zero or a water. Hey, you'll decide in a moment. Your first movie poster that we're putting up depicts your fondest movie memory. And this is a poster for for The Blob, the original Steve McQueen The Blob, because it celebrates the drive-in movie experience. Your next poster is your worst movie memory, which is The Holy Mountain. Your third poster depicts the last performance that brought you to tears, the magnificent Brendan Fraser in The Whale. And the final poster we're putting up is for the Clash of the Titans remake, because you do not get 3D even in your own movies. Then we're going to play the trailer for Oppenheimer. We're going to play a moment that makes you pump your fist in the air. It's the Ents into Helm's Deep from the Two Towers. We'll play the shockingest moment in cinema history, which is the skin mask coming off Anthony Hopkins' face in Silence of the Lambs. The piece of dialogue is from Bardo. Take a swig of success, then spit it out, because it will poison you. Wonderful. And finally, we're playing the use of music in a movie is from Kung Fu Hustle, the opening titles, and then we're screening Alfred Hitchcock's Rear Window. What a night, Katy. Thank you for taking us on a trip to the movies. Have you had a good time?
I've had a great time. Thank you. It's been great. Good times.